On my head. What's up, Tuesday Night Live? Cameras are very different places today. Sitting here, receiving energy from the universal mind. I'm going to do a little bit of a meditation this evening. Looking forward for you guys to join it. I'm going to have some questions answered. Yeah, get it. Oh, do you like that little rap I was doing? Prayers go up. You know what's funny is like I can rap like okay, but then like when people are watching, I get kind of nervous. When I'm in my car alone, I'm an amazing freestyle rapper, and then I'm like in front of like a screen, and I'm like. Tuning in from around the world, boys and girls, opening up the heart to see a new take on reality. Gonna receive something good, gonna help you in your neighborhood. Hopefully, you're gonna smile wide, gonna be bright like a light, sharing all the value that we have inside with each other. That's why we came together. That's why we're here on this world. Have a smiling face. Yeah. Still not as good as the other one. Yo, what's up, Boris? How are you doing? Nice to see you with Mindry. Coming at you live today from Woodland Hills, California. And hitting a few setups, so maybe I'll just try something there. I don't want to look in one spot for everyone to see it. So welcome to another exciting edition of Tuesday Night Live. I'm always open to take requests about what people want to hear about, want to talk about. Something that I want to share is that I'm actually going to Italy tomorrow. I'm going to Lake Como in Italy. And I will be gone until next Tuesday or Monday. And I'm going there for a network spinal conference training thing where I'm going to receive a lot of energy work over a few days. I'm really excited about that. So tonight's episode of TNL might be a little bit short because I still need to pack and do stuff. It is cold here. I was just wearing something really nice and I got freezing, so I put back on my Bigfoot live shirt. Because Bigfoot does live. Last night I was watching Kung Fu Panda. And in Kung Fu Panda, there's a really interesting... I don't know, man. I want to talk about it, but I also don't want to like spoiler alert it for those of you that don't want to watch Kung Fu Panda or haven't seen it yet. Okay, here's the deal. You're going to watch Kung Fu Panda today or sometime this week, and then I'll talk about Kung Fu Panda next week. You guys have to remind me because there's something I want to talk about, but if you haven't seen it, you need to see it first. No. Let's do a little Tuesday Night Live. If anybody has any questions, feel free to shoot them up. Let me know what you're thinking, what you're feeling, what you'd like to hear about. And if not, I'll just go right on into some stuff. Hmm. So last week we talked about connecting to the field, receiving energy from the fields, connecting to the field around us, holding that energy of the field. Today I want to talk about the same thing, but from a different perspective, and that is what we generally identify and associate ourselves with, which is like our body, or it's the feelings, or it's the beliefs, or it's kind of like we associate with this stuff, with the self. And because we're associating with this thing, it doesn't allow us to become more. It doesn't allow us to open up to become more. It doesn't allow us to receive more. So while one thing we can do is we can just connect right into the fields, the other thing that we can actually do is work on dissolving the self. And when you dissolve the self, all that's left is the field. So when I was a monk in the monastery, we never talked about the field. The teachers were never like, connect to the field of energy around you. But they would talk about allowing the self to dissolve. And as the self dissolved, then you kind of enter the space of oneness, this vast kind of space of activated consciousness and energy. So it's kind of like the field is accessible when we remove our identification from our habituated place. So if I'm always just focusing on this body as being me, and then this body is in pain, and then I am in pain, and then that'll be like the whole reality that I'm kind of spinning around in, is just like me in a painful body, right? But then if I can connect to emotions and I'm like, hey, you know what, actually, as I'm feeling this pain, I'm purifying karma. And suddenly it's like, oh, that pain's not so bad anymore. Suddenly now there's like a different perspective around that pain, right? Now I've created a point outside of that pain that's also helping to what's the word I'm looking for? It's helping to make things kind of easier. And then I can start to bring in feelings. Let's say I'm in pain, but then I start to give some love to myself and love to my pain, understanding, and other people start to, give me some love. And suddenly I'm feeling love. And it's like, oh, now it's my reality is not just pain. Now it's also like love, right? So it's connecting more points outside of our identification little bubble. When we talk about something like the field, it's talking about something beyond everything that we think is me. So it's not just about the pain, it's not just about the body. It's literally everything outside of what I think is set. Everything that I can perceive as me. So it'd be like my body, my thoughts, and my feelings, mainly. I can perceive things outside of me currently, like my phone, my computer, and the light, and the room. But I don't really see those things as myself. I see everything outside of this space as separate from me, separate from myself. So when we do meditation actually as a process is that we can relax and we can release and we can allow all of this to start to dissolve. And as we allow the stuff to start to dissolve, we close our eyes, right? So it's like we disconnect, we let our body relax, and suddenly we kind of dissolve. Our mind starts to dissolve, our bodily sensations begin to dissolve. And shortly, even our thoughts begin to dissolve. And after a while, everything that we call ourself will dissolve. That's slowly, there will just be this space. There's just like space and awareness. There's all of a sudden just kind of like, a big field, a big field of energy, a big field of vastness and awareness. And so when we need to transcend our situation, when we need to become more, we can really connect to this energy and this consciousness. And one way that works is that I know for myself, I have this really strong if-then mentality. This actually was shown to me by some of my Buddhist teachers. They're like, oh, you think like when you get enlightened, then you'll be happy and peaceful. And they're like, well, what if it's the other way? What if it's first you have to be happy and peaceful and then enlightenment comes, right? So I've been noticing for myself that I have this really strong if-then mentality that I think happiness comes. When I become a millionaire, then I'll be happy, right? When my job feels super aligned, then I'll be happy. Like when everything in my relationship is resolved, then I'll be happy, right? When my body is totally like back on track, then I'll be happy, right? That happiness is the thing that comes eventually when I do all this work and all this stuff and this big grind about, life, that eventually happiness will come at the end of. The problem with that is that, we often are in a similar situation for a long amount of time, or results don't happen fast enough, or, we start to get tired. We start to actually get really tired and depleted, always trying to create a future happiness, right? Always trying to connect to a happiness in the future that's not here yet. So by having an if then, when then mentality, we're always waiting in the future for the thing to come now. We're always disconnected. We're always disconnected from the results. And we're always disconnected from our happiness. We're always disconnected from our sense of peace, from our sense of fulfillment, from our contentment. There has recently, again, been a resurgence of this understanding in my field, in my energy. And it kind of comes as a question, and it's like, hey, is the happiness going to come when all of these boxes are checked? Or do you first start connecting to happiness now? Do you first start connecting to how you want to feel? Do you feel gratitude? Do you feel joy? Do you have fun? Do you let life be a little bit lighter, a little bit looser? Do you really dip more into the enjoyment, and allow the things to then start to reorganize around your feelings? So it's kind of counterintuitive, and it's definitely different from everything we've ever been taught. Our society, it's very much like A to B. It's very linear. Do this thing, get this result. But it's also very structured, like from when we were in school. Like you learn the thing, and then you study, then you take the test, then you get the grade, then you go to college, and it's very like step by step, one thing on top of the other. And as we see, that way does work, and it does work for some things, right? That it's not throwing the whole thing out the window. It's like, yes, also in life things are linear. There are things that are step by step, like all the material things you have to do. It's like if you're building something, it's like step 1, step 2, right? Like an IKEA piece of furniture. But what if there were also other ways to arrive to that same location? Ways that we haven't been taught. Ways that, instead of utilizing the material way of being, what if there are actually ways that utilize the spiritual way of being? What if we first connect to a field? What if we connect to a feeling, an uplifted, happy feeling, a feeling of playfulness, a feeling of peace, a feeling that everything's okay? Just noticing that this flag is really framing my head nicely. That what if we first connect to that feeling, and then by being in that feeling, that starts to inform and entrain our physicality, and then also those around us. I know for myself, when I walk into a setting, I walk into a party, and I'm feeling really happy, I'm feeling really uplifted, I'm feeling really positive. I start to interact and create more positivity around me, and people start to like me, and they want to know more about me. And then they're like, here, like, I want your card, I want your contact, let's work together, let's do things together. That by coming into a situation from a positive place, from a place where I feel good and I feel happy, I start to receive all these things that I want. If I walk into that same party and I'm worried that, I don't have enough connections, and that I don't have enough money, and I don't have enough things, and my energy is kind of more like tight and cagey and unsure, guess what? When I interact with people, they're going to feel kind of all these weird feelings within me, and they're not going to want to interact with me. They're not going to want to connect with me. And then I'm going to have more of the same, right? I'm going to have more of feeling like there's not enough, and I need a new thing, and something's not right. And so the thing about feelings is that they will create more of themselves. So if you're feeling happy, and you're feeling joyful, and you're feeling connective, you're going to create more of that. You're going to create more situations. You're going to create more reality that's then reflected back to you. And then that becomes a real thing. If you're feeling like withdrawn and pissed off and like depressed and like grumpy and cagey and stuff, judgy, negative, you're going to see that around you. You're going to interact with the world around you in a way that's going to create more of that you're going to create a lot of energy around you that people don't want to be around. And you're like, see, everyone sucks. See, I can't trust anyone. We create these realities. And then when they're bounced back in our face, we then take that as validation and proof and say, see, it is that way. What if that's completely backwards? What if it's actually completely backwards? What if We're just not aware of how much of a creator we actually are. And what if it's our emotions, our emotional states that are the creators, right? And this kind of gets tricky because, like, when I talk to you, I can change some of your thoughts, right? We can change your ideas. I can give you new information and we can flip ideas around. But if you're not feeling good, if you're feeling depressed, if you're feeling angry, if you're feeling anxious, how can I convey a different feeling to you? Or how can you shift your emotional state? That's actually a very interesting exploration. Some people that change their emotional state, they jump up and down. You know, if you ever go to Tony Robbins, it's like you kind of move he says you have to move your physicality. You have to shift your physicality to shift your state, right? Tony Robbins actually has like a triangle and it says, you know, physicality, your language, and your focus. He says that's how you shift your state. Change what you're focusing on, change how you're talking about it, so your narratives around it, and then also change your physical state. And if you move your physical state, you'll feel different, right? This is part of his thing. I was at Unplugged, the studio that I teach at, and I chatted with one of the teachers there. And as I was talking to her, I was just feeling this like amazing, like loving warmth coming from her, like through into my body. And I was like, wow, like this feels like great. And I chatted more with her, and she's like, oh, like she teaches these like self-love, you know, meditations, and that she every Sunday night teaches this, you know, classes on love and feeling that coziness in herself. She's like, yeah, I'm not a physical mother in this lifetime, but I feel like I'm a mother to all of these adults who still need a mother in some way, you know? And I was like, I actually felt that, like, I feel that from you, you know, that she has mastered this ability to kind of convey an emotional vibration to other people. And, you know, she's one of the more well-known people there is because, you know, if you can make somebody feel good, they're going to want more of you in their lives. They're going to want you around. They're going to be more connected to you. So what I'd love to invite this evening is for us to really reflect on how are we continuing a reality that we don't want based on our emotions, based on our way of relating to it, based on our stories and our beliefs and our feelings that are perpetuating a reality that we don't want. And also reflecting back for ourselves in times in our lives that through projecting out positive emotions, through having fun, through being engaging, through being connective, we actually created scenarios that we did want, that were good for us. So noticing for yourself in your own life that principle that how we can create. So in the men's group that I'm part of called Man on Fire, I'm often wearing a Man on Fire shirt. Today I'm wearing a Bigfoot shirt. They talk about multiple levels of consciousness. This is also connected to Network Spinal and Donnie Epstein. But the first stage, stage 1, consciousness exercise 1, it's actually about feeling the unpleasant feelings that we hold in our body. So if there's a situation that's happening and you feel sad, right, that they would say in the men's group that you lay your hands over that part of your body and you breathe into that and you say, sometimes I feel sad. Right. And then as you kind of just feel that, then you're like, oh, you know, sometimes I feel lost. Sometimes I feel alone. Sometimes I feel hopeless. Sometimes I feel ashamed. Sometimes I feel like a failure. Sometimes I feel not enough. And as we're connecting to ourselves and we're allowing this connection to the unpleasant feelings, we're actually transmuting them in the moment. We're actually beginning to neutralize them and release all of our resistance to them. So as we begin releasing our resistance to the painful feelings themselves actually start dissolving and dissipating. So everything that moves us more into that direction of oneness, that's the direction to go. Everything that moves you more to being inhabiting the field is great. When you feel happiness, when you feel love, when you feel excitement, when you feel freedom, those feelings are all out here, right? You're out in the field. You're at a concert. It's an amazing band. You're like, whoa, and and you feel this amazing connection because everybody's vibrating together, right? As this one big organism, right? The times where we feel the worst are the times where we feel the most alone, the most disconnected, right? That we have a really strong pain point in our body. And that pain is taking all of our focus, all of our attention, all of our energy. Our whole energy field is collapsing actually just into that one point of pain, and we feel stuck in that. So by connecting to those feelings within you, and by breathing and starting to really, really, really feel. So David Mailer, the leader of the men's group, he says an emotion should only take seconds to minutes to feel, to move through your system. If you've been feeling something for longer than that, for hours, days, weeks, months, it's because you're doing a really shitty job at feeling your feelings. He's like, you suck at suffering. Because if you suffered properly, you would actually take the time to fully feel the feeling all the way through. And on the other side of that feeling, you reconnect to a feeling of life energy. Right? That as soon as you start feeling your feelings, everything starts to soften and release. And then you start to feel better. If you are afraid and you haven't checked that fear, if you're offended and you haven't checked that feeling of offendedness, you're going to then be responding with that. You're going to be hitting that out into other people around you. You're going to be creating a lot of trouble, a lot of conflicts, a lot of chaos. If you feel that feeling of being offended and you hold it and you breathe into it and you let that feeling start to relax, you let that feeling start to be felt and be seen, and that feeling starts to melt, then you can actually have a conversation with somebody that could actually maybe be heard, that you could be received. If I feel offended and right from that, I shoot from the hip out of that feeling, whoever I talk to, they're going to get defensive, right? They're going to feel attacked. They're going to feel my energy. We respond to each other's energetics way more than we do to each other's words. So if you can dissolve, if you can resolve, if you can relieve your own feelings within yourself first, you can begin having way more harmonious relationships and way more clear conversations and communications. But also as we start resolving the feelings, the painful feelings within us, really alchemizing them, by feeling them, it also starts to create space. And it starts to create space where we could then be filled with positive emotions. Even if I feel sad and I put my hand where I feel the sadness in my body and I breathe into it, and I start to feel sadness and I say, like sometimes I feel sad, sometimes I feel sad, sometimes I feel really sad. Slowly that sadness will also shift into a feeling of feeling connected, a feeling of feeling loved. The same place that sadness was now has shifted to a feeling of connection. And now I've created within myself a feeling that I can actually step forward into the world with, and it's going to be a usable feeling. It's going to be received. So learning to take accountability and responsibility for our feelings. I'm just going to check if there's any comments. You guys feel free to let me know what you're hearing, what's coming up for you when I say this stuff. But taking accountability for our feelings, first really feeling our feelings all around in life. And I promise you, this is called consciousness exercise 1, right? So there's multiple spots in the body that we use. There's one up here. There's one in the solar plexus. There's the belly button. I guarantee all of you that right now in your body, you could be putting your hands in different parts of your body and you could be breathing in and you're like, oh, wow, there's a feeling living in that spot. There's a painful feeling. There's a feeling of being alone. There's a feeling of being not enough. There's a feeling of being frustrated. There's a feeling of being exhausted, right? As we begin connecting with and feeling our feelings, it gives them this space and this opportunity to be acknowledged, to be felt, to be seen, to be transformed. For those of you who are into Buddhist traditions, Thich Nhat Hanh would often talk about something like this. And he would say that you talk to your feeling the same way you would talk to your child or to your beloved. You would connect to that pain and you'd say, my love, I am here for you. I see you. I'm sorry that I've neglected you and forgotten about you for so long. I will not leave you again. I will stay with you until you feel better. I am here for you. As you begin connecting to your own painful feelings, as you start sending love to yourself, you're actually now generating the feeling of love. You're generating the feeling of understanding. You're generating the feeling of connection. You're generating the feeling of compassion. We have an opportunity to utilize the painful feelings within ourselves to cultivate an emotional energy that's healing for that, and thereby also will be something that we can start to give. See how this works? So if I have a pain, say I have sadness, I start to feel that sadness, give that sadness the feeling of connection, give that sadness the feeling of presence, give that sadness love. I'm now cultivating connection. I'm cultivating love. I'm cultivating togetherness. I'm cultivating care. And the more that I give that to myself, the more that I've cultivated, the more I'm now able to give it out, right? So this is kind of the process of how we learn to be, teachers and healers, coaches, guides, whatever the word is you want, is by healing yourself, by bringing yourself through that process, you're now creating the solution. You're creating the antidote. You're creating the medicine. And that's now something that you've created in your own alchemical process, within your own factory, in your own body, right? Your own mind, that now you can give outwards. Now you can share, right? So the same thing that we give to ourselves is the same thing we can also learn to give others. Sometimes we're too quick to try to give it to others, and we haven't yet done it to ourselves. Sometimes we don't want to create disharmony outside, so we try to act like everything's okay, but actually inside of us, things are not okay, right? Sometimes externally, we take other people's feelings as more important, other situations as more important, the harmony is more important than ourselves. And oftentimes we end up neglecting or abandoning ourselves for someone else or for a greater good. Sometimes we don't want to speak our truth because it might hurt somebody, and that would make us feel sad, and there'd be this whole process. And so it's just easier not to speak my truth than to hurt all these people and to do a thing. But now I'm holding on to something that I don't want. It creates resentment within me. And it's, there are all these just various complex emotional cycles that we go through, mostly around not actually being fully in touch with our feelings, not really allowing the full emotional process within ourselves to happen as step one, and then often step two. Not always, but then step two can be communicating it outwardly, right? If it's an interpersonal thing, if you're in a relationship, you can first catch your feeling, right? Someone says something, you feel triggered. You can catch your trigger and feel it like, wow, I feel really triggered. Okay, I feel attacked. I feel misunderstood. I feel alone. And as we breathe into that and we give our feelings a sense of togetherness, then when we're ready to talk to our partner, we're ready to show up again, we can do it from a place of emotional stability and emotional readiness and emotional openness, and a place that's more loving, right? It's not now like I'm in pain and I'm blaming you for my pain, and now I'm going to hurt you because you hurt me, and creating one of those endless cycles of revenge, which we see playing out also, in politics and in countries and in religions. Right? At some point during any of these processes, right, all of the greatest leaders, you have the Martin Luther Kings and the Gandhis, and people that have decided, hey, it stops with me, it stops with me, it stops with my movements, with my people, with my, that this is as far as it goes. We will not continue the cycle of violence here. This can be the same thing in your own family. If you come from a family that is not very emotionally intelligent in their way of communicating, if you come from a family that is a little bit abusive, if you come from a family that is not very skillful in their way of expressing themselves or feeling their feelings, you can make the exact same declaration. You can say it stops with me, that I will be the one that resolves these things, that I will be the one that takes a moment and feels my feelings and responds instead of reacts. I will be the one that allows this stuff to transmute through me, through my own practice and my own showing up in myself for myself. I can create a different reality around myself, right? So this is our opportunity. This is our opportunity, and this is our ability, is that when we take care of ourselves, we can start taking care of the world. If we're not taking care of ourselves, we can't take care of others. And if we try to take care of others without taking care of ourselves first, we're going to burn out. So for all those people who are burning out in their lives because, of burning out, being a caretaker professionally, or whether it's like within your family or your friend group, you're going to burn out. You're going to feel resentful. It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable to take care of other people if you're not taking care of yourself first. Right. So really learning how to do these practices to take care of yourself. And what happens is, as you start taking care of yourself, these painful feelings, they begin to dissolve. And as things start to dissolve, things start to feel more open and more free. And again, in the Buddhist practices, right, through the meditation, through the absorption, as the mind absorbs, there's no actual word in traditional Buddhism. There's no actual word that's called meditation, right? There's a word that's samadhi, which is the state of absorption, the state of perfect absorption. The mind is perfectly absorbed in itself. There's different words for attention. There's different words for consciousness, but there's not actually a word for meditation, which is fascinating. One of the Buddha's most famous suttas on meditation, it's called the Anapanasati Sutta, which translates to the in and out breath. And sati, it's the recollection of. So it's pretty much translating to remembering to breathe in and out, remembering that you're breathing in, remembering you're breathing out. So the way that the Buddha talked about breath meditation is he said, you're remembering that you're breathing in and you're remembering you're breathing out. And when your mind goes somewhere else, you remember that you're breathing in and you remember you're breathing out. By doing that, eventually your mind gets more and more focused on the full breath in, the full breath out. And eventually it starts to feel good. Eventually you start to feel almost like ecstatic. And eventually you get into these really amazing states where, again, everything disappears. And all that's left is just a sense of bliss and a sense of spaciousness and a sense of awareness and oneness, right? So this is the field. I also know when people pray to God, they also get feelings like this, like I'm connecting to something bigger than me around me, that I am dissolving into this bigger feeling, this bigger field of love, right? So there's many different ways to get to that state. Some of them are more successful than others. Some of them you need at different times. Sometimes you first need to dissolve the painful feelings to get there. Sometimes it's about just straight up cultivating the good feelings, right? There's also in Buddhism a thing called a metta meditation, where you're just wishing, wishing well, wishing goodness, wishing happiness and peace and safety on everybody, right? So a metta meditation is just you're praying, may everyone be happy. And you're just going right into the positive feelings, into the love, and you're just projecting that out into the fields and you're creating that, right? So there's many ways to get to that place where everything just kind of dissolves. Everything just dissolves into one big sense of unity. And that seems to be the goal. That seems to be the goal of meditation. It seems to be the goal of prayer. Seems to be the goal of many different spiritual practices, right? People that go into trances, right? People that dance, people that do plant medicines, right? All of it kind of seems to come back to eventually shifting from this place of feeling like you're like in pain and like alone and kind of just like there's just this dark void and it's just you in this pain and that's it, to just being in this field, this expanded state of love, of oneness, of pleasure, of bliss, of happiness. If the path doesn't move us towards happiness, and I've had monks tell me this, the Karmapa, who's one of the more higher Tibetan lamas, right? It's like the Dalai Lama is the head of one tradition, the Karmapa is the head of another tradition. He said, if you're not getting happier, if you're not getting more peaceful, then what's the point? Why are you practicing? It's not really working. If it's not actually making you feel better, then it's useless, right? So really finding ways to move ourselves more and more into the state of feeling connected, whatever that means for you, right? Again, there's many, many different ways. So take a moment, everyone, write in the chat what you're hearing, what you're feeling, what it's bringing up for you, what it makes you think about and reflect about. Are these all things you already know? Is there anything that was new? So just take a moment just to type, give me some reflection. It's good for your mind as well to write something down. I'll give you one Jeopardy song worth. Do, 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 do. I can't play the actual Jeopardy song because Facebook will block my video. Okay. So tell me what this is bringing up for you, what it's making you think about, what you're realizing, what you already knew. When I do energy healing work, I actually use the same principle as the fields. Is I connect to a vibration, to a feeling of healing, So I connect up into this vibration. And then I feel the room and all the people in the room. And then I start to just allow this mingling, where I allow just a sense of oneness and bliss and healing to begin to mingle with the energies of the room. And I kind of like hold these two doors open, almost like if it was hot in one room and cold in the other room, and you held the door open, and then kind of the temperature starts to balance. When I do healing work, I'll actually hold open the sense of oneness while I'm connecting to the feeling of all the people. And I'll just start to relax into that, and I'll allow these two things to start to dissolve into each other until by the end of a healing, I won't feel any separation between a sense of oneness and all the people in the room, that everything just becomes one homogeneous feeling of peace, of relaxation. And then I know the healing's complete. Okay. April is saying, Kanye reiterates to me that we go through things, turn around and help others, especially when we heal and learn the lessons of what we go through. Facebook user, Facebook unfortunately doesn't tell me who's saying what, says, I'm hearing, remember to breathe out to cultivate a deeper sense of oneness and bliss and connection. Beautiful. Melody says she misses my healings. Nico Umwelt. What's up, brother? He says is it making me happier thing is a big one. Yeah. So really reflecting, is the thing we're doing working? Is it making me happier or not? Am I feeling relief from it or not? Or am I doing the same thing again and again and getting the same results that I don't want, but not putting in any effort to change it? Not trying something new, not taking just a moment to reflect. Go on a walk outside, go touch a tree and just take a moment and be like, what's not working right now? What can I shift here? Love the reminding of just breathe in and out. I need to do it more for myself. I was much happier when I was doing that, and life crept in again. And you definitely felt the shift when you do so much for others without doing enough for yourself, Maureen. Yeah. Sorry, I've been, I was out like on a hike today, and then I like ran back. Then I've been on just calls on like a men's group call and a client call. So I feel like my brain's a little bit scrambled. Are you saying that if you stay in this higher dimension, you won't encounter anything that will trigger you, like someone getting assaulted? So I'm not saying that. There's definitely a time to respond to a situation appropriately, to protect somebody, to protect yourself, to stop something that's going on that's harming. But as you do that, then you're doing it with love, and you're also doing it, even when you're angry, it's like a righteous love. It's like, hey, like my anger is just a fire that's stopping something. If somebody kicks a dog and then you punch them, it's like, well, what's the difference? It's like, now we're also just hurting someone because they're hurting someone. And then their friend saw you and then they punch you. And then, we have to just understand that there's this cycle. And if we continue just reacting on each other because you did a thing and then you deserve a thing and then and I'm angry at you, it goes on forever. And at some point, we also have to start taking accountability, right? This is not a teaching of being passive. This is not a teaching of saying, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to stand up for myself. I'm not going to say anything, right? That's the other extreme, right? These are the two extremes. One extreme is like, I'm not going to do anything. Even if someone in front of me is getting beat up, I'm just going to sit here minding my own business. Right. And the other extreme is that I see something happening and I just jump and I just start punching too, because, I feel triggered. So what is the balance? How do we bring more mindfulness? How do we bring more awareness? How do we respond to the world in a way that will bring the results that we want? And this is the point. Focusing on the results. Focus on the results. Sometimes I'll be in an argument with somebody And I'll notice that it's suddenly like a who's right kind of thing. And I notice that if I keep trying to be right, that person's going to keep trying to be righter. And it's this endless thing. And it's like, well, what do I really want at the end of the day? It's like I just kind of want to feel like my point's being heard. And I'm like, cool, how do I get that in this moment? It's like, oh, I know. I stop fighting with this person and I say to them, gotcha, yeah, I really understand your point, and really understand their point, see what they're saying. And if you really give them the feeling of being understood, they then will often reciprocate that and let you feel understood, right? Often, if you want to feel appreciated and you don't feel appreciated, so then you start blaming. Maybe you need to give appreciation and then you can receive it. Sometimes we need to give the thing we want to get. Sometimes we're feeling not seen, but maybe we're not seeing the other person. I see often in our society that, especially like with social media, there's all these people like trying to be right about things or being angry at other people because they're wrong and being disrespectful to each other. And it's like this endless thing of just toxicity. And it's like, well, just because someone's wrong doesn't mean that they deserve disrespect. Or just because you disagree with someone doesn't mean they deserve disrespect. Just the same way you don't want to be disrespected. The golden rule, very simple. But noticing how we treat each other and again, just how the cycles continue. So this all just goes back to the, is it making me happier point? Is that really asking ourselves, is my way of doing this working? Is it making me happier? Is it contributing in a good way to this world? Or is it creating more misery? And if I'm getting more and more miserable, if I'm getting heavier, if I'm getting tighter, that's something to look at. I recently listened to, there's this artist, his name is East Forest, and he came out with this new album recently. And on one of the tracks is Duncan Trussell, if you guys know him, from the Midnight Gospel series. And Duncan Trussell is talking, and in the thing he said, imagine the thing happens. Imagine that the aliens come down, or that Jesus comes back, or the Buddha returns, whatever the thing is. Imagine the big thing that we've all been waiting for happens. He's like, then what? He's like, you're still gonna have to go to work, you're still gonna have to eat food. His exact words were, cool, then you're gonna still be on the spaceship and you're gonna have to go to the bathroom and you're gonna walk in there and the guy before you just pissed on the toilet seat and you're gonna say, what the fuck is wrong with people? That even when the thing happens, we're still humans. We're still going to be in the human condition. The same stuff's still going to happen. We're often waiting for this big thing to happen to make everything okay. But even when the big things happen, you're still going to have sciatica or whatever. You're still going to have that one friend that you wish drank less. You're still going to be angry at how much it costs to get gas, whatever. That life goes on. Life's still going to go on. So instead of waiting for the thing, the if then to happen, what if there was ways right now in this moment to already connect to what we want, already connect to the goodness, already connect to the sacredness, the appreciation of being together, of loving each other, of breathing, of even honoring our own feelings, even the painful ones, even being with the parts of ourselves that we'd rather not be with, even being with parts of others that we'd rather not be with. What if the sacred, the holy, the big holy fuck ahas were embedded in the mundane? What if right now in this moment, right now, you staring at me through the screen of your phone or your computer, what if you right now, looking in my eyes with your eyes, I'm going to hypnotize you, looking in my eyes, what if you realized that this was it? That this moment right now is it? There's nothing more that you will ever get. There's nothing more that will ever happen. This is the moment. And either right now, you can find happiness, you can find peace, you can find gratitude, you can find enlightenment, there, here, in this moment, or you will never find it. But it's always right here. And it's here. And it's here. And it's here. And all you have to do is be with it. Because all of the frequencies exist on the radio. You can tune it to any station you want, and they're all right. All of the radio stations are there. You can say the world is heavy metal, and in your reality, that'll be the case. You could say that the world is reggae, and that would be the case. You could say the world is classical music, and that would be the case. You could say the world is NPR, and that's the case. Whatever you turn the radio to, that will be your reality. That's what you project. That's what you experience. You are creating it, and you are deciding it. So what if right now in this moment, you could decide? You could decide to be here. In this life, in your life, on this planet right now, exactly as it is, with things happening exactly as they're happening, in your body, in your heart, in your mind, in your relationships, in your family, in your home, in your neighborhood, in your community, in your country, in your state, in your religion, on this planet, exactly as everything is right now, without changing anything, and still be able to be wildly happy and grateful and at peace and present. Right now, in this moment, this same moment that stretches infinitely, the same moment that the Buddha was meditating in, the same moment your children's 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 children, if you have children, will be born in, the same moment each of us is going to die in. This moment right now is it. This is it. I don't know what this is. I don't know where I am, how I got here into this body. I don't know what this reality is, but I'm here. This is what I've got. This is how things are. Am I accepting it? Am I grateful for it? Am I utilizing it? Am I here for it? Or am I fighting and blaming and avoiding and distracting and resisting and rejecting? What if we released all of our narratives about how things should be and shouldn't be, and all of our narratives about right and wrong? And for one moment, we allowed ourselves to fully be here. Thank you for listening to my Tuesday Night Live. When I get off this call, the moment continues.